Hey everyone, welcome to the Essentials channel. Today we'll be doing a review on Canberra Crescent Residences. Is this a CCR property? Most importantly, it is actually developed by Kheng Leong, which is a developer that focuses a lot on high-end developments such as Mayor House, Klim at Cairnhill, so on and so forth. They have also developed Water Gardens at Canberra, which is our neighbouring development that is in the area as well. Will this mass market property turn out to be a CCR gem? Just like how its name suggests, we'll find out with this review. So we are into the second half of 2025. This is one of the OCR developments that I believe will be a blockbuster, because given how the current supply of developments that are coming out into the market, how limited it is, actually there is a price void that the demand is waiting to fill, and this actually fills the price void. So basically, if you're trying to find a 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom below the price of 2.1 million and 2.5 million respectively, there is actually not much choices left in the market, and the only other choice is actually the resale market. And sometimes even when we go onto the resale market, it is hard to find something that we like, and most importantly, sometimes the down payment becomes hindrance because we also need to factor in the renovation cost. So right now, with these choices in the market, such as Canberra Crescent as well as Springleaf that is coming up, it will actually fill the price void in the current market, and it will cater to a certain group of people, and it will cater to the pent-up demand that is happening in the market right now. New launch prices are high, resale prices are high also. Then might as well we go for something that gives us the progressive payment to allow us to extend the payment period, but most importantly, we do not have to spend so much on renovations, which actually affect our upfront cost as well. So I believe Canberra Crescent Residences, or CCR in short, will actually give a renewed opportunity to the pent-up demand in the market right now. So if we look at the 2025 pipeline, basically there's not that much to choose from. After Canberra Crescent Residences, it will be Springleaf naturally. And after Springleaf, am I right to say you don't really have that much to choose from? We have the Sand, which is in Upper Bukit Timah, but that's going to be classified as an RCR property, probably. Of course, the next two projects that's coming up that's going to be in the OCR will be Faber Residences, which has a total number of 399 units, followed by Villa Natura, which is in Tongpo Avenue, that only has 11 units. So basically for 2025, Canberra Crescent Residences and Springleaf is your last two blockbuster project, or the last two large-scale development that you can actually go for in the OCR, and that has created a supply glut in that sense, and the pent-up demand is actually here. For those that are looking for the mass market properties, especially if you're looking in the north area, basically these are your last two choices to choose from, and I believe it will be a very huge attraction, and a huge crowd will be coming in to check these two projects out. Right, so as always, we'll follow the similar framework that we have done in all previous videos. First of all, we'll start off with the rapid fire info, followed by the site plan and floor plan analysis. Next, we will move on to why I will not buy Canberra Crescent Residences, why I will buy Canberra Crescent Residences, the price prediction, and followed by my final verdict. So now we move on to the rapid fire info. So first of all, it is developed by Kheng Leong and Loh Keng Huat. It has 376 units, with 4 12-storey residential tower with a sky garden at block 55 and 57, a childcare centre at the first story of block 52. Tenure is a 99 years commencing from 4th November 2024, right? And then from there, we are in District 27 with the expected date of legal completion 30th April 2033. Likelihood the TOP date will be in Q3 or Q4 of 2028. It sits on a site area of 20,435 square meters with a plot ratio of 1.6. Basically, that's a very huge site. We are talking about more than 200,000 square feet of land. Next, it has a 382 residential car park lot, inclusive of 4 car park lots equipped with electrical vehicle charging station, 3 childcare centre car park lots, and 1 accessible car park lot. And also it comes with a 1-year complimentary shuttle bus service from main development to the following destination of Sembawang MRT, Bukit Canberra Active SG Sports Hall, as well as Canberra MRT. So before we begin, remember to like, share and subscribe to keep me motivated to churn out more interesting content for you. So far, I've seen the Essentials channel growing steadily, and the views have hit 3,500 to 4,000 and even 5,000 views. Really thankful to all my supporters out there, as I want to bring to you unique insights based on a real estate agent point of view. Because like what I always say, there is no reason for ourselves to screw ourselves over. Definitely whatever that we recommend you are proven and supported by data, but most importantly, our reputation is also at stake. Why would we want to recommend you something that we cannot sell in the future? We are not that stupid as well. Alright, so in that sense, we also will want to recommend you something that is easy to resell in future, so that it makes our lives easier, but not only that, protects our reputation and maintains that long-term relationship that we have. And that's why I started this channel. It is to bring to you a different perspective and a unique perspective from a different side of the coin. So before we proceed on to the site plan analysis, here are the artist impressions for you to have a good idea and perspective of what Canberra Crescent Residences is like. Alright, so this is another masterpiece by Kheng Leong. Alright, and I believe that you have seen their previous developments. They always focus on very high quality finishing, very nice design, architectural designs and structures, but most importantly, livability. And this is reflected in the project that they are doing here at Canberra Crescent Residences. So here is the site plan where we have block 51, 53, 55, 57. Very nice blocks being laid out across a regular shaped land. Alright, full facilities except the tennis court. It is split into the various zone of arrival zone, social zone, rejuvenate zone, and then of course the Canberra Club where we have the function rooms, social working space, entertainment rooms, the poolside BBQ, as well as the cabana that even comes with a mini golf. And all of this is also combined with the kids zone. So the Canberra Club is basically this extra piece of land that is protruding out here that really separates the kids zone from everything else. So being in CCR itself actually brings a lot of peace, quiet and tranquility, because you can see how thoughtful the developer is to lay out the entire site plan in this manner. They put all the kids facilities into a separate Canberra Club site allocation so that you do not hear the kids screaming as well as kids running around. And it's very natural for kids to be running around and screaming because they are having the time of their lives in such a beautiful project. And the very thoughtful thing that the developer has done is to make sure that these facilities are separated with the furthest distance away from all the blocks, and this brings a lot of peacefulness and quietness to the residents staying in this development. And that is one very special point that I want to highlight once I saw this site plan, because I can totally imagine myself staying down here enjoying the kind of peace and quietness, especially with all the facilities separated from the main blocks itself. There is one disadvantage to the site plan though. There isn't a tennis court, and most of the time being in an OCR area, we would expect to have a tennis court given the sheer land size that this developer bidded for. But however, we don't really see this in the site plan, and they could have possibly fit this in, especially using the Canberra Club portion of that land. Alright, but maybe the developer has some reasons why they are not doing this, and honestly, there's not that many people actually playing tennis in today's market. I know some of you tennis enthusiasts out there definitely would hope that Canberra Crescent Residences have something like that, but well, unfortunately this development doesn't have. Probably it's because of the close proximity to Bukit Canberra Active Sports SG. Maybe they want to divert some of the activities towards that direction, but otherwise we are not seeing it here, and probably they want to maximize the land space by placing one or two more blocks here. Probably another reason is the developer wants to focus the facilities more on the kids aspect, and that's why you see a lot more kids oriented facilities. So before we move on to the layout analysis, here is a quick summary of the views based on the site plan. Right, so if we can see from here, on one side of the blocks 51, 53, 55, 57 will face the landed side of things, and then you will enjoy a premium scenic view that overlooks the lush greenery, because all of them are low rise, so you'll be able to look towards quite far out without any blockages. You will enjoy some lush greenery, and of course, because there is a heritage black and white houses site there, you will be able to overlook all of this depending on your floor level. And then on the other side of the block, currently you are actually looking at the green field where the future education lands would be. There is currently no construction there, and you will enjoy greenery and an empty field, giving you an unblocked panoramic view of the surrounding as well. Alright, but of course, if you want something that has a more permanent view, alright, and to enjoy the livability in the long run, then my suggestion is to pick the landed view side of things, because there will always be a demand, especially the focus is on livability once you are considering CCR. So now we move on to the floor plan analysis. For the one bedrooms, they are all 409 square feet. Basically, there's only 3 units here in this entire development. So whoever lucky 3, congratulations to you. But if we look at the one bedroom layout, this layout itself is not exactly the best layout that I would actually consider, given the long corridor space as well as the galley kitchen. And then we move into the dining and living. Basically, there's 3 units. I will not spend time focusing on this. So it's also a good thing, because if you realize that with the GFA as well as the URA policies in place right now, basically developers are definitely more wary and considerate in terms of the unit distribution. You will realize that 75% of the entire unit distribution focuses on the 3 and 4 bedrooms in CCR. Not much 1 bedrooms, and that's a good thing, because whenever it comes to homestay areas like Canberra or OCR areas, having 1 bedrooms actually will cause more problems and disadvantages in the future, especially the exit strategy. Why? Is because in these homestay areas where the demand is focusing on homestay, 1 bedroom doesn't have a high natural demand, and with that, those owners owning the 1 bedroom who wants to exit fast sometimes have no choice but to cut their prices, in the end diluting the entire development's pricing, because they need to sell fast, they need to drop the PSF. And with that in mind, whenever buyers check out the transactions and they see that the 1 bedroom PSF drop, usually they will use that 1 bedroom PSF to pack it against the bigger units, because generally everybody always have the impression that smaller units tend to have higher PSF, and they will draw comparison. If the owner decides to drop the price of the 1 bedroom, generally they will use that to peg it against the bigger units and in turn diluting your prices. And we are not going to see that problem happening here at the Canberra Crescent Residences. Alright, so now we start off with the 2-bedroom compact, where we see a 570 square feet layout. As we enter from the main entrance, you are greeted by your galley kitchen, and of course they have carved out a little space down there that can act as your study table or an extra kitchen aisle or a storeroom. And then we move on, just like every dumbbell layout, we have a designated dining area followed by a living space with the 2 bedrooms on the left and right. This is a 2-bed 1-bath layout, so the bathroom has a Jack and Jill entrance so that whenever your guests come, they do not have to enter the master and intrude the privacy before going into the toilet. I think this is a smart design, and it is 570 square feet. It is capitalizing on the harmonization policies so that we can make sure that the 570 square feet space is efficiently used. So these are mainly in stack 1 and 9 facing the education side. Next, we have the 2-bedroom premium that comes in at 667 square feet. Alright, again capitalizing on the harmonization effect. As we enter, you are greeted with an L-shaped kitchen, a study corner, the dining, living with the 2 bedrooms on each side and the 2 bathrooms on each side. Again, this one can act as a junior suite for the 2nd bedroom. They have a Jack and Jill access, which ensures privacy for all the occupants in the respective bedrooms. This can be found in stack 4, 12, 20 and 29, which faces the landed views and the greenery views. I think they actually gave quite a good view for the 2 bedrooms here, which ensures future price sustainability. Next, we have the other 2-bedroom premium at 667 square feet, an alternate stack. It is just a mirror image, which can be found in stack 17 and stack 32, which faces the future educational side. If you're buying the low floors, you may be blocked by the future educational building. 3-bedroom compact down here. Basically, they did what they could do, right? It is a 797 square feet. To me, there may be a little bit of concern down here given the size, but in order to keep the quantum low and the affordability high, the developer has decided to do something like a 797 square feet 3-bedroom compact. If you ask me and we look at the layout, actually I must say they did a really good job, because once we enter from the main entrance, you are greeted by an L-shaped kitchen. Unfortunately, because it is the middle portion of the block, you don't really have a window in the kitchen, right? Then we have the dining area followed by the living area. So the good thing about this layout is this: from this floor plan we can actually observe that the dining can fit in a 6-seater, a 797 square feet fitting in a 6-seater dining set. That is really efficient usage of space. And then of course this is a dumbbell layout. Naturally you have the 2 bedrooms on the left with 1 bedroom on the right. The bathroom too comes with the dual access, which ensures the privacy is retained for the occupant in bedroom 3. But otherwise this is a very livable 797 square feet 3-bedroom layout that keeps the quantum low and ensures the high affordability that caters to the upgraders in this area. Next, we have a alternate version of the 3-bedroom compact. Basically it's just a mirror image of it. Alright, so for the layout just now we can see stack 5, stack 13, stack 31 and stack 28. They all face the unblocked greenery view of the landed side of things. And then of course the alternate layout will face the future educational side, which will experience certain blockage of views in the future. Alright, so they are mainly stack 8, stack 16, 24 and 25. I think of course the developer pricing strategy will be the future block views will be the ones that prices the lowest, and then of course with the greenery views or the black and whites will probably have a little bit of premium being placed on it. So now we move on to another version of the 3-bedroom compact, the bigger version, which is 872 square feet. Now this is what we are usually accustomed to, because before harmonization this will probably be a 910 square feet or 905 square feet 3-bedroom compact. But with harmonization right now, definitely, once again I emphasize, it makes the whole space more efficient, but you pay for your bang for buck. Alright, so entering the main entrance, you will get a similar 3-bedroom compact layout. The only difference down here is the master bedroom having a bigger wardrobe space, and depending on how you customize the space itself, you can actually make a walk-in wardrobe from there. Alright, but you can see how much more spacious your master bedroom becomes, and that's the main difference. So this is stack 5, stack 13, stack 21 and 28 that faces the landed views. Alright, so now we move on from the 3-bedroom compact 883 square feet. These are mostly in stacks 02, 10 and 31, which faces the future education side. Alright, now we move on to the 3-bedroom premium 990 square feet. Again, capitalizing on the harmonization effect, this used to be about a 1012 square feet or 1023 square feet kind of 3-bedroom premium, but here we get it at 990 square feet. Again, pay for what you need and what you use. Alright, so coming in here from the foyer area, it replicates the 3-bedroom compact layout. The only difference this time around is actually the inclusion of the utility toilet as well as a bomb shelter. Alright, of course the bomb shelter will be used for your storage needs, and then of course the WC, alright, will be catered to your helpers' needs of them having their own personal toilet. Alright, so of course this is something that meets the homestay demand in this area. But what I really like about this developer is this: there are variations of layout, there's not too much deviation, and this makes it easier for future buyers to pinpoint whenever they look at the transactions. And with that in mind, there is not much deviation and erraticness to the layout. It gives the buyers a lot more certainty whenever it comes to choosing your units in future. So your price sustainability will be sustained because the future buyers finds it very easy easy to pinpoint the layouts. The 3-bedroom compacts are basically the same as the 3-bedroom premium, just that without the utility toilet and the bomb shelter. If I have the budget to do so, then I'll go for the 3-bedroom premium. Fulfill my family needs, I'll just pay more for it. It is easy to pinpoint just based on looking at the past transactions. And this ensures that livability is met in the entire development. 3-bedroom compact, similar layout to the 3-bedroom premium. Very livable, but with livability being met means your needs are met. That also means a clear exit strategy. So for this 3-bedroom premium layout, there's only one stack, which is stack 03, facing the landed view, as well as overlooking the unblocked views of the black and white houses. So this to me is the most premium stack, I would think, because it really offers you the panoramic view for Canberra Crescent Residences to enjoy. Next, we move on to another 3-bedroom premium stack. They are stack 6, stack 7, stack 23 and 26. Entering from the main entrance, you get that foyer space there, comes with the dry kitchen, wet kitchen, and also I like how the entire development's bomb shelters placement are. Basically, they do not eat into your living space and create odd angles or odd spaces that you find it hard to navigate or customize. They usually tuck it in one corner, right, into the building structure, rather than putting it in the middle of your living room or eating into your living room space with suddenly a hard steel structure there that you cannot do anything. Basically, as you walk into the living room, you are greeted with this open space depending on how you want to customize it. And this is what we see down here with the 3-bedroom premium layout, 990 square feet. We walk in, we see we can fit in a 6-seater dining set, a good 3-meter living room, and then from there, depending on how you want to use the study space, you can hack it down, or you can actually seal it up to form your helper space, so on and so forth. Next, of course, this is a traditional 3-bedroom layout with all the 3 bedrooms and bathrooms running in parallel against it. So another thing to take note, alright, so for all the compacts, you will realize that the washer and dryers are in the balcony, except for the bigger 3-bedroom compact, which is the 883 square feet. They managed to fit the washer and dryer into the kitchen itself, just like every other conventional traditional layout. Next, we move on to the 4-bedroom compacts. It is 1163 square feet, mainly in stacks 11 and 19, capitalizing on the unblocked views of the landed. Same thing, replicating the 3-bedroom premium layout. Again, not much variation. Basically, it is uniform, it is consistent, easy for your future buyers to pinpoint. Now the 4 bedrooms layout difference is just similarly entering from the main entrance. You got your dry kitchen, wet kitchen with the utility toilet, as well as the bomb shelter in the center of the house. Can fit in a 6-seater dining set, followed by your living room. So this unit itself allows customization. Basically, you can decide to keep the study there, else we can hack down the study to capitalize on the landscape layout. So it is hard to find harmonized developments that comes with landscape layout, and I am so happy to be able to find a 4-bedroom here that can actually achieve a landscape layout that runs in parallel with the perimeters of the balcony walls. And then this will capitalize on the landed views. Just imagine walking into your living room and then you open to this wide frontage of a landed view. How beautiful is that? And that is what I expect from a 4-bedroom. Alright, so as we enter to the bedroom portion, we will see master bedroom, bedroom 2 and bedroom 3 running in parallel against each other, and then they cascade the bedroom 4 right to the other side, the opposite side of the bedroom 2. Right, this is a very smart move because this will effectively use the space of that 1163 rather than having a very long corridor. One more thing to take note, you will realize that upon entering the master bedroom, there is one recessed space that I think can actually act as additional storage or decorative portion of your master bedroom, or you can use it as a little area for your dressing table. Alright, next we move on to an alternative layout of the 4-bedroom compact. This is stack 18. Alright, mainly everything is pretty much the same. Alright, just that it is a mirror image. And from there, we can see this one is actually facing the educational side. Next, we have the 4-bedroom standard layout. This itself actually comes with the full landscape orientation that we really love. The difference is this, the study here is a designated study and it's a much bigger space as compared to the 4-bedroom compact itself. The 4-bedroom compact offers you the flexibility to get a landscape layout, but once you hit into the 4-bedroom standard, you get the full landscape layout with a designated study itself. But to me, actually, the value for money is here at the 1173 square feet because it fulfills the need and the usage and the purpose of a 4-bedroom already. In fact, the developer is so smart to be able to offer a 4-bedroom plus study the minute you enter the 4-bedroom categorization. Alright, so naturally, of course, once you are in the 4-bedroom standard, the layout, everything else is similar. They shifted the bomb shelter into the left side of the floor plan, not eating into your living space, like how I mentioned before. And then in place of that bomb shelter, they put a study area. This is one of the best layouts for 4 bedrooms I've ever seen. Alright, and the key thing is this, they cascade the bedroom 3 and 4, meaning to say they do alternate master bedroom, bedroom 4, and then on the opposite side is bedroom 3, and then bedroom 2 again being opposite of bedroom 3. Right, by cascading the bedrooms, it reduces the corridor space, reducing wastage. This is one of the most ideal 4-bedroom layouts. This is my #1 layout that I've seen so far in so many projects. Again, this one faces the landed views as well as the black and white houses, but the very good thing is this, it overlooks over your Canberra zone as well as your kids zone. Just based on my imagination, I can already visualize the full landscape view before seamlessly connecting to the landed views in the further out area. So alternatively, we have another 4-bedroom standard which is at 1216 square feet, stack 14 and stack 22. Follows the similar layout that we just mentioned, just that a different orientation for the bomb shelter. Next, we have the 4-bedroom premium, which is in stack 27. Again, enjoying the same views as the 4-bedroom standard. Like how I mentioned, you look past your landscaping in Canberra zone first before overlooking the black and white houses. Alright, the best of both worlds in terms of views, very livable. And of course, this 1324 square feet, as you enter the main entrance, you are greeted by the wet kitchen. Similarly, the study that connects and offers you that flexibility, dry kitchen moving forward after the wet kitchen, and then the landscape layout that takes advantage of the entire panoramic view. And then of course, with their bedroom spaces cascading against each other to reduce the wastage. And then of course, for this master bedroom, you get that walk-in wardrobe space that all the other 4 bedrooms doesn't offer. So you can see where the spaces are being allocated. The entire development's layouts are consistent, easy to point, it is uniform. The different allocation of spaces offers the buyers and consumers a different flexibility to meet different consumers' livability needs. And so you realize that of course all the better layout units, or all the 3 and 4 bedroom units mostly, are corner units starting from the 3-bedroom premium, right? Whenever you want natural ventilation in your toilets as well as your kitchen, right, then you look for corner units because these are the unit placements that are able to offer windows in your common toilets as well as your kitchen area. So now we move on to why I would not buy Canberra Crescent Residences. First of all, as a consumer myself, to me it's all about familiarity as well. Of course, I understand some of you may have grown up in this north region of Singapore and of course grew up in Canberra itself as well as Yishun, so it's all about the familiarity. But at least for myself, the inaccessibility and the inconvenience of Canberra is the main thing that will stop me from buying CCR. Alright, reason being because if I were to drive, it would take me at least half an hour to reach Orchard or downtown. If I were to take an MRT, it would then need about 10 stops, alright, to hit Orchard, or of course maybe about 13 to 14 stops before I hit Marina Bay. Alright, to me that is a very long travelling time, and to me it is always spells the word ulu. Alright, but with that in mind, it is all up to the personal preference of every buyer and consumer. But for me as a consumer myself, I cannot accept staying in such a far out area, and that would take me a bit of consideration before I would even consider buying the CCR itself. And then furthermore, the walk to the MRT itself takes at least 10 minutes. I know based on the sales kit that you hear everybody's going to tell you 9 minutes, but people like myself who have shorter legs will definitely take longer, and that will mean 9 minutes to 15 minutes. I would think that is a more realistic walking distance and timing. And with that in mind, if I'm going to walk 15 minutes and Singapore is so hot, right, can you imagine how sweaty I will be even before reaching my workplace? Alright, so but of course, I understand that the government is making a lot of efforts to build sheltered walkways, but then again, the long walking distance is something that I may not be accustomed to, and that is the main reason why I may not buy Canberra Crescent Residences. Alright, number 2, why I will not buy CCR. It is also because of the end of the infrastructure phase. So you know how I always mention in my other videos how we should be choosing our projects, right? We should be choosing our projects based on transformation, and there is this 3-phase transformation framework that we can actually capitalize on. And if we look at the current focus and resources that the government is currently focusing on, actually basically you will realize that all the government land sales is happening, or most of the government land sales is actually happening along the TEL line, and we are experiencing what we call the TEL effect, where we see the developments experiencing exponential growth, but most importantly, they are experiencing the infrastructure phase where government is pouring billions of resources into creating townships along the stations of this TEL line, and that you'll be able to see how the growth of the developments and the townships are. And that's why you see the likes of Norwood Grand, you see the likes of the Lentor area, you see the likes of even the River Valley Township experiencing the infrastructure phase. Basically, Canberra used to be a transformation of the past. Remember how they transformed this entire township to create more malls, to create more family activities, community centers, as well as the Bukit Canberra Active SG. All of these were representation of the infrastructure phase in the past. You can see how they actually redeveloped the entire MRT station to create that futuristic outlook for the station itself. Those were the improvements as well as the rejuvenation for the Canberra area in terms of their infrastructure phase. So basically, when you are entering into CCR itself, you are at the tail end of the infrastructure phase, and the exponential growth has already been factored in already. profitability. Now we are at the tail end of the infrastructure phase for this particular area, and with that in mind, you are actually enjoying the fruits of labor, but then again, the prices are already being factored in, because we can see from the past where Water Gardens at Canberra was sold at about 1,400 to 1,600 PSF, and today they are trying to exit at 1,800 PSF itself. Alright, of course, for this place, you are entering at 1,900 PSF. With that in mind, in a way, the transformation infrastructure phase has already been factored into the prices of Canberra Crescent Residences. Well, naturally, there are news of the whole Sembawang shipyard transforming. There's news about the Northern Gateway transformation happening that will spill over from the Woodlands side of things, but that again will take another 10 to 15 years, right, before the next transformation would actually complete. And with that in mind, the holding period might actually prolong before you can actually see substantial returns. And that's why we look at the past transactions of Water Gardens at Canberra as well as Commodore. There are 2 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms only average a profit of about 250k to 350k respectively. There are 4 bedrooms only hit about 450k thereabouts. Alright, so with that in mind, you can see how much limitation there is in terms of the affordability of this area as well. So now we move on to why I will buy CCR. First of all, is the very awesome layouts that I have nothing to complain about, alright, apart from weird 1-bedroom units that only has 3 units. Other than that, actually everything else is very ideal and it fits the livability needs, alright. So once the livability is met, the needs are met, the exit strategy will be very clear. And we are getting that in terms of CCR. First of all, the developers focus on livability as well as meeting the needs of kids' lifestyle. That's why they have all the facilities being oriented around the kids' play facilities and activities, so on and so forth. It really have families in mind. And you will realize they have been making the layouts very consistent and uniform. What does this actually mean for you? It actually means that if you are a resale buyer today, whenever you come to Canberra Crescent Residences, the uniformity in terms of layout makes it very easy for resale buyers to pinpoint how much they will need to be offering for the respective layout. And you will see it based on how we observe the 3-bedroom compact versus the 3-bedroom premium. The only difference is actually in the inclusion of a utility toilet and a bomb shelter. Basically everything is the same. So it really helps the buyers to categorize themselves as well as assess themselves. Whatever that they can afford, they just buy whichever layout at Canberra Crescent Residences. Isn't it good for your resale exit strategy? Alright, they do not have to worry about varying layouts, erratic layouts that might cause prices to actually fluctuate in the development. And with this uniformity and consistency, it brings in a lot more price sustainability, which means clear exit strategy depending on how long you decide to hold Canberra Crescent Residences. Next is also partially contributing to this layout factor is the placement of the blocks. Basically, on such a big land size, they are so evenly distributed across the huge land size, and the key thing is this: none of the blocks are facing each other. They are all intentionally placed in a slanted position so that every unit maximizes the panoramic views that they are getting. Whether they are facing the future educational side or whether they are facing the lender side, at least all the units get to enjoy panoramic views for as long as it could last. Right? And that itself already edges a lot of the competition in the entire area, because we have brownstone, we have vision air. These are ECs that people may feel that it is a competition to CCR, but actually if you look at the site plan itself, all the units are facing each other. Basically they belong to an era where all the units look into each other. Where is the privacy, and is it that livable to begin with? And that will cause a stagnation point for places like brownstone and vision air once CCR comes out, because the minute CCR comes out, it gives the buyers an alternative choice. But most importantly, if we observe the pricing in our next point later, you will realize that actually the new launch like CCR is pricing almost the same as the resale prices at brownstone and vision air. It is because of this unique site orientation itself. This land plot is actually so special because you're basically surrounded by all the low rise, if not its future educational plot, which has a limitation to how high they can go. So basically you'll be getting a lot of unblocked views as long as you get the high floors. And you know, with the rising affordability and the income aligning with property prices in Singapore, don't forget, like how I always mentioned in my previous video, government vision today, when you buy property, it is a need. So meaning to say, no matter how expensive it is, you will still buy as long as you can afford. And that is what exactly the government has been doing, implementing cooling measure policies as well as efficient, robust income policies to ensure income aligns with housing prices so that families can afford what they need. Alright, and the need is what? The livability. So with Canberra Crescent Residences itself, having that kind of unblocked views with this kind of unique site orientation, which is so hard to get, and that may be the real reason why Kheng Leong, actually being such a high upmarket developer, actually bothered to come over to Canberra here to develop this particular development, because I think they recognize how unique this site orientation is to be able to be surrounded by black and white houses, low rise that offers panoramic view which increases the livability of this development. I think we should go in the direction of what this developer has actually identified. Why would an upmarket developer actually come all the way to Canberra just to develop a project? They must have seen something about the land attributes that supports their developer's reputation and vision. Alright, so now we move on to the second point, a renewed opportunity. First of all, affordability is the key thing. We can see based on the limited supply pipeline that is coming up in the next half of 2025, we realize that there's actually not much mass market developments that are coming out. Basically, your next choice is Springleaf Residences, followed by nothing else. So if you miss out on Canberra Crescent Residences, your next option is Springleaf, which I believe is gonna be a super overcrowded development as well. So with that in mind, my suggestion to everyone is, of course, get in, put one foot in first, right on the wave of the market as well, alright, because a very clear purpose of why we buy real estate is also to begin your building capital process. So do not fall into the trap of waiting for Springleaf as well. You can really consider Canberra Crescent Residences itself because you are the cheapest in the entire Singapore at this current moment. So replicating similar scenarios like Tampines at Treasures, people were always complaining that it was ulu, it's inaccessible, blah 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 blah. But look at what happened to Tampines Treasures. They were the cheapest in the entire market, and naturally, because buying real estate in Singapore is a need, you already set the benchmark being the lowest, they have no choice. If I need to buy a 3-bedroom, I have to pay this price for it. There's no contention because I need to stay in a 3-bedroom, and as long as I can afford, this is the cheapest whatever that I can get at this current moment, and in future as a resale, I have no choice but to buy it, and that will form your safety net as well. So why am I telling you this is also because if we look at the prices of CCR, it will be starting from 1,900 PSF. So if we do some price comparison to the surrounding ECs such as Brownstone and Visionaire, alright, Brownstone itself, the average PSF right now is at 1491 PSF, alright, at 1.115 mil. Mind you, they are not harmonized, so naturally you may think, hey Matt, we are going to be paying for a higher PSF. Yeah, it's kind of true, but don't forget this is a harmonized development, so harmonization actually reduces the quantum so that to keep affordability in check. So drawing comparison to the surrounding ECs, because that may be the contention, hey, if I buy CCR itself, why not I go for Brownstone or Visionaire, which may offer a lower PSF or lower quantum, right? But don't forget you need to factor in renovation cost because they are already more than 5 years old. And if we look at the average prices of a 2-bedroom at Brownstone, they are already transacting at 1.115 mil, and mind you, they are non-harmonized, meaning to say naturally their PSF may be a bit lower. But if we observe Canberra Crescent Residence with that kind of effective layout, you can get a 2-bedroom at 1.11 mil. Just a slight top up on for this case itself is actually even lower than the average pricing. So now we move on to the 3-bedroom at Brownstone. You will see their lowest transacted is about 1.235 mil. The average price is 1.376, the highest at 1.688. Now we get the starting price of CCR at 1.53 mil. Hey, actually it's not that bad. You pay 9% more, you skip the reno, you get brand new private. Not only that, you get to enjoy the progressive payment, avoid all the exposure to risk, high interest rates, as well as possible crises, but yet capitalize on this renewed opportunity to ride on the wave and at least get the profits in as well. Hey, it's the best of many worlds. Now, comparing to another alternative comparison, which is Visionaire, we see Visionaire, the 2 bedrooms there transacting at an average of 1.087 mil, alright, with the maximum price at 1.136 mil. Hey, a new launch transacting so close. A new launch actually asking price is almost the same as a resale EC. Alright, with that in mind, the 3 bedrooms itself is about 1.403 average price, 1.76 mil for the highest price in Visionaire itself. Alright, and that itself actually brings us this renewed opportunity where we are able to get a new launch at a resale pricing. And all this is because you are just nice in the midst of the changing policies called the GFA harmonization that actually brings down that quantum for you. If we compare this to the surrounding resale prices, we can see Water Gardens at Canberra for the 2 bedrooms are transacting at 1.276 mil, for the 3 bedrooms 1.809 mil average, and of course the 4 bedrooms at 2.33 mil average. If we look at Canberra Crescent Residences, the starting from for the 2 bedroom is 1.11 mil, the starting from the 3 bedroom is 1.53 mil, the starting from for the 4 bedroom is actually 2.2 mil. Hey, lower than a resale average pricing. And now if we look at the Commodore transaction prices, we can see that the average prices for the 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom and 4 bedrooms are 1.298 mil, 1.895 mil and 2.25 mil respectively. Compare that to the starting prices of Canberra Crescent Residences, which is a brand new development. Whoa, basically you are actually getting a little bit of a renewed opportunity as well as a renewed first movers advantage here at Canberra Crescent Residences. But most importantly, you have the best livability factors in this development, which you will be able to edge out your competition in the future. So another added advantage at why CCR will actually edge out the competition at Water Gardens at Canberra as well as the Commodore, you will realize that these two developments are low-rise developments. Alright, so Water Gardens at Canberra is a very densely populated area. Their land size is big, but because of the height limitation that they have, they only can go up to 4 floors or at most 5 floors. Alright, the next one you will have the Commodore itself is also about 5 to 6 floors. For Canberra Crescent Residences itself, it actually goes up all the way to the 12 floors. Right, why is this important to take note? Because like what we always mentioned before, do you realize that somehow the low-rise developments always have a limitation in terms of pricing? Why? Because the first floor and fifth floor in terms of PSF difference is only about 100 to 150 PSF difference. You will not have that kind of big difference in terms of PSF being transacted within the development to begin with. And with that in mind, the buyers themselves also won't have that much of a confidence to be able to pay more for the unit, whether are you a low floor or high floor, alright, because it does not give it enough runway or room to increase the PSF along the way. But once you are at Canberra Crescent Residence itself, it is all the way until the 12 floors. It does give it a little bit more edge and runway to let the PSF drive up. So at least now you have a wider gap from the low floor to the high floor. Once it is transacted, it gives buyers a confidence to be able to pay more because they actually see a higher PSF being transacted within the development itself. And that is the main reason why Canberra Crescent Residences will edge out. And given the current choices in the market right now, they are already transacting at 1752 PSF to 1800 PSF or even 19 PSF. With Canberra Crescent Residence, a high rise calling and starting from 1900 PSF. I actually think that that is a very fair value to call for, but most importantly, it brings you an added first movers advantage, which the previous cycle wasn't even able to offer to the consumers back then. Now you finally have this choice of doing so. Can you imagine if you are a resale buyer today, given the choice of Water Gardens, Commodore and Canberra Crescent, which one will you go for? A high rise or a low rise? And furthermore, just to add on to the point, comparing to the OCR, RCR and CCR new launches, you will realize that actually Canberra Crescent falls below the average pricing of OCR launches at 2056 PSF with the starting PSF of 1900 PSF, and mind you, they are harmonized developments, so in a way they are really in a very good position. Like I say, you are getting the cheapest in the entire Singapore. How wrong can it get? And most importantly, the safety net is already there provided for you. Now move on to point 3. Alright, why I will buy Canberra Crescent Residences. So you will see from here, the cluster at Canberra itself has about 8,793 HDB flats, MOPing between 2023 all the way until 2027. This itself already provides you with a good group of upgraders because here itself has that township already created. So you will naturally get your natural demand from the upgraders in this area where they want to move closer to the MRT station or move closer to the amenities, and of course Canberra Crescent is something that offers them this very unique alternative choice. And of course, if we observe the surrounding HDB prices down there, right, the Sembawang side of things would have already profited by 54.35% over the last 8 years or so, with Yishun profiting at about 33.72% and 36.57%. Basically, Sembawang HDBs outperform Yishun and Woodlands HDBs, and we can see where the support is actually going to come from. This also hasn't included the Northern Gateway transformation, where tons of jobs will be created in Woodlands area. So Woodlands area will become the next business hub in the area. So many jobs will be created, but most importantly, an influx of population will actually be happening. So your exit strategy is actually quite clear with the influx of such population, but most importantly, the opportunities and the transformation created by the Northern Gateway transformation. Most importantly, there is also another transformation that the government has implemented and planned for, which is the Sembawang Shipyard rejuvenation. So down there itself will be another township that will contribute to the upgraders' demand in this area. So now we move on to the final verdict of CCR. Overall, I give this a very awesome score of 8 out of 10. Alright, reason being because if you ask me in the past, I may not give it such a high score because there are alternatives in the market right back then. But right now, with the limited supply pipeline, basically you are the cheapest, most affordable in the entire Singapore. If you don't choose this, what you're gonna choose? So basically the safety net is formed. Choosing the cheapest in the entire Singapore would actually give you a clear exit strategy because it forms that baseline and benchmark for people to pay for. You're the cheapest already, no choice. You want to own a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom, you got to pay for my pricing, and that sets the market for it as well. So in a way, your exit strategy is already quite clear to begin with, and that's why I give it such a high score. But secondly is the livability. After observing and analyzing this development, development, Kheng Leong really did a very good job in terms of the livability. And like what I always mention in my videos, once the livability factors are met, the needs are met, it also results in clear exit strategy. I like the fact that they are the only development that is high-rise as compared to the two other alternatives, such as Water Gardens as well as Commodore. They are only 5 floors. Alright, so we all know the limitation of a low-rise development, and Canberra Crescent coming up will actually provide the only other alternative choice in the area, which means that your future resale buyer have no choice but to choose Canberra Crescent Residences. But most importantly, the emergence of the education and the possible school site right opposite and beside Canberra Crescent Residences actually provides an added advantage to this development, even more livability, because families can send their kids to these schools right beside, creating even more convenience. And the township of Canberra itself has already been fully developed. Your amenities are in place. Basically, as long as you are used to staying in this area, all your needs are met. You want your supermarket, you just take a short walk. You want the mama shop, you want your hawker centers, your food court, they are all just in the vicinity. Take a slightly longer walk, you get to your MRT station. And of course, with the community centers built as well as the Active SG at Bukit Canberra, this is all you can ask for that meets all your family needs. So it is very sustainable there. Always remember, buying property in Singapore is based on need. And with that in mind, your exit strategy is very clear. It's just depending on how long you hold for the surrounding income to catch up as well. But like I said, I really love what Kheng Leong did with the livability factors, and I can see what they envision coming into fruition. You can imagine looking out, enjoying the black and white house, that kind of landscaping, whether you're facing the front or you're facing the back, you get clear unblocked views, alright, that's gonna last a lifetime. So with that in mind, to wrap it up, this is a place where you get the renewed opportunity, the renewed pricing advantages that is relevant, that is comparable to the surrounding resales, but most importantly, MOP ECs that were supposed to be cheaper as compared to condo. In the end, the price gap is so narrow that you might as well go for a new launch development in this area. How often do you really get such a phenomenon in this current market today? Usually we always get the impression where ECs resale are supposed to be 300-400 PSF cheaper than the surrounding condo, but right now we are seeing that the prices are more or less overlapping or intercepting each other given the harmonization policies as well. So you got all these advantages working into your advantage. If you ask me in the past, I may not recommend the Canberra area, but if you ask me now, with the limited supply pipeline, with the renewed pricing advantage, with that kind of layout that offers consistency and uniformity, hey, I think CCR itself may present to you a final good alternative option in this current market right now. Faster get into this property, get one foot into the market, alright, right on the wave, so that you can continue your capital building process to leapfrog into your next dream home. I hope you enjoyed today's review, everybody. So if you like my content so far, continue to like, share and subscribe as I stay motivated in creating more awesome content for you. Like I said, the viewership has grown up to more than 5,000, and it really encourages me to do even more for my audiences out there.